Hello and welcome to the Mr. Feels podcast, where we talk about anything and everything mental health related. I am your host, Tyler May.
And I'm your other host, Laura Benson.
And this week we have my friend Sienna joining us today.
Hello.
Sienna is a host of a podcast called the Make New Friends podcast. And she also has anxiety and depression. And she's recently moved to England. I guess not too recently. It was in 2015, right, Sienna?
Yeah.
And so we're just going to talk mostly about how depression and anxiety flow into our relationships and friendships. So, Sienna, how are you feeling today in general? How are your levels right now?
That's a good question. I mean, I feel all right. You guys are a very welcoming host, so I feel not too anxious. And also because I co-host a podcast of my own, this isn't too out of the norm for me to be on a podcast. But yeah, I'm a little nervous because talking about mental health is kind of scary, you know? You often feel quite isolated, and that's definitely been my experience, especially moving to a new country. So it's just kind of I'm a little nervous about how this is going to go.
No, yeah, I totally get that. I remember, I don't think we've talked about this before, but the night before we posted episode 0, I'm calling Laura. I'm like, I don't know about this. What is happening? Is this all just a problem? Should I even be talking about all of this? And so I'm having a little freak out moment, and Laura's just calming me down. It's what do you think? Do you really think that this is okay? Isn't this what you've been talking about this for months? Okay. And so just having somebody there to calm me down, I was just I was so relieved just after talking to Laura. And so, yeah, it's nice to kind of build a little community of people who are just helping each other out a little bit, and that's what we hope to do with this podcast, and I'm doing it for myself with having people like you too, so I think that's great. So do you want to start and bring us through just your mental health journey from when you started feeling mostly any forms of anxiety or depression, and then how that kind of developed?
Yeah, sure. So the first time I actually came in contact with anxiety and depression was during the fall of my freshman semester at university. And obviously that's a time for a lot of people where you're going through a bunch of changes. And I went to the doctor on campus and I told them about how I couldn't go into the bookstore if there were too many people, because I was afraid that they would judge me or they'd make fun of me, or just I would be an outsider. And I was also feeling really isolated at the time, obviously, because new place, new group of people. And I didn't really have any friends either. I didn't have a car or a mode of transportation. So again, just very closed off in my room, feeling very, very down and at my lowest point. And I was really worried. So this being my first instance with mental health problems, I didn't really know what was going on. So I'm glad that I reached out to a professional, because it was very clear to me that something was not right. So the doctor diagnosed me with severe anxiety and severe depression and prescribed me citalopram at the time. And they also recommended that I go see a counselor. And I got the prescription, and I walked out of there, and I was I don't know where the counseling is, so I'm not going because I have no idea where it is, because my anxiety was that bad. I just I couldn't fathom going into a new place. I couldn't even go to the bookstore for a Scantron for a test, because I was that just anxious, wrapped up in it. But so I had this month-long prescription of citalopram, and I felt okay, this is what it's like to be normal. This is really helpful to kind of quiet everything going on. And I was okay, cool, that's done, over with. The month is over. I'm cured. And then about 4 months later, because, school kind of went through the motions and whatever. 4 months after that, I decided to go back on the meds, because I think I went back to my doctor for something, and I got my prescription renewed for 6 months. So I was on it for those 6 months, and after that time, I really felt like I had a handle on it, because I'd spent a more prolonged period with everything just kind of like evened out, and I knew like, oh, I'm being a little silly about this situation, and it's nothing to be worried about. So that was like my first time with anxiety and depression.
And do you think it got better also with just like getting used to the place that you got and like having more friends? Did that
absolutely
happen?
Because after that 6-month stint with the citalopram, I started being more confident, and just I knew where I was in terms of like the campus and the people I was surrounded by. So that obviously helped a lot, and I just felt just more confident and more able to go out of my way to start a conversation. And that lasted pretty much all throughout university, probably because, once you make friends, it's a lot easier to meet new friends and, from there. But as a freshman, I found out that like once you just like get out of your bed and like force yourself to like get somewhere, then it makes it a lot easier. It's so true. But that's like the hardest part, is like getting out of bed to do that. And also like having the positive reinforcement as well, that like, it wasn't so bad. But so after university, I graduated at the end of 2013, and I moved back to New Orleans, where my dad lives. And that was when a lot of stuff changed in my life again, because obviously I moved to another city that I hadn't been in since I was like a kid. So it was basically like my hometown that's not my real hometown. I didn't know anyone apart from like my family and the job that I had. So it was very alienating. And then after like a year of that, well, almost like 2 years. No, it's about a year. Because in 2015, I moved to England. And that's pretty much where the second bout of my anxiety and depression like kicked off. So I think you can see like a pattern here. Like when I'm pulled out of my safe zone and put into this new situation, it's just like all hell breaks loose. But so I moved to England, and at that time I was engaged, planning a wedding, and I also lost all of my friends for one reason or another. One of the friendships pretty much just ended because they didn't want to be my friend anymore. And then some of the other ones just kind of like dissolved, and we didn't really keep in touch. So it was very lonely for me, feeling like I've moved to be with the love of my life, but I've lost all of my friends in the process. And also I'm thousands of miles away from my family. It was really tough. And I think the whole year of 2015, I was trying really hard to not deal with it, and that just like pushed me lower and lower and lower. And like that's the year I got married, that's the year I got my beautiful cat Beatrice, like so many happy things. But like I spent so many days just like laying in bed and feeling miserable and like wondering if I had made the right choice. Then at the beginning of 2016, I was like sick and tired of being so depressed and like not wanting to go out to the shops, because I didn't want people to know that I was American in England. I was really, really afraid of that, and like that they'd strike up a conversation with me and that they'd ask me, "Oh, where are you from?" And I'm just like, please don't say anything to me. So that obviously wasn't helpful. And so 2016 was like the year I decided, right, I need to get up. I need to go put myself out there in some way, and like just kind of take a look at what I'm doing and give myself purpose. So I started a photo journal, which was really helpful because I'm a creative person, and like journaling is a great way to just like get stuff off your chest, And it helped me work through so much stuff that I was like going through, like little instances where I would be anxious about something like a family gathering or going to the gym. I like conquered that fear because I was able to work through it in my journal. And then at the beginning of this year, I stopped my journal And it was like a part of me was like missing. And I was really, really bored, and I couldn't like figure out, I mean, I knew the journal had a big part of that, but I just couldn't really figure out why I was feeling so low apart from my journal being done. And so I was like, you know what? I don't have any friends. I need to make friends. I'm going to get a job. So I got a job.
Nice.
And, you know, it wasn't
How'd
great.
that turn out?
It was just not good. And this is coming from someone who has not been in a full-time job pretty much ever. My last job in New Orleans was part-time and freelance. So I was basically doing full-time, but it was way more laid back than this new job that I had taken on. And it'd been, you know, a couple of years since I've actually gone to work. And this whole time in this job, I'm like, okay, you know, this is normal. I'm adjusting to the commute and like the 2-hour commute to work and then the hour and a half commute back because you have to wait for trains because I can't drive yet. It's fine. I'll be able to conquer it. It's normal that people don't like their jobs. It's normal that people don't like to talk to their coworkers. Yeah, you know, it'll take time.
Oh,
I was just like, it's fine, it's fine. And I would talk to my husband and like his family because we live in the same town. And I'd be like, yeah, oh my gosh, like I'm just so exhausted all the time. This is draining me. And I'm like, is this normal? And basically everyone's saying, yeah, you know, welcome to work life. Like, you know, this is what it's like to have a job. And I'm like, okay, so, all right, I guess I'll just get used to it. And then a few weeks go by. I'm not getting used to it at all. I'm like going into the bathroom and I'm just like trying to just close my eyes and have a Zen moment before going back to my desk and dreading it the whole time. So eventually I just went to the doctor straight after work and ended up breaking down and crying and being like, I don't understand why I can't just get on board with this. Like, I want to quit my job. I don't know what's wrong with me. Like, everything sucks and I hate it and I'm afraid. And the doctor was just like looking at me and he said, you're very clearly depressed. And I was like, oh, yeah, that is true. I have that. So he basically signed me off work for 2 weeks. And when I came back, I quit. And it was the biggest like weight off my shoulders because I felt like, oh, this stressful thing is gone and I no longer have to deal with it. But then I started going to therapy as well. And I've never gone to therapy. And that was when I really started realizing that even though I cut out this hugely stressful thing in my life, I still had a lot of stressful things to deal with in myself. So, yeah. And I went to therapy for CBT, and that was about like 2.5 months long. And it was really good because I was talking to obviously like a professional, a therapist, and being able to work through my like all my little anxious things and my triggers. And I still have a ton of them. And it's not like going to CBT like cured everything, but definitely helped me realize how I've been using a lot of like unhealthy coping mechanisms, especially probably like during the years when I was at university and a couple of years ago before I like really realized that you still have anxiety and depression, like even if you're feeling fine and you have friends, it doesn't just like disappear. It might feel like that, but like it's still there and you have your ups and your downs. And so going to therapy just like helped me so much, and it just opened up the possibilities. And like realizing that it takes time to relearn the behaviors that I've taught myself for like years and years and years. Yeah. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah. And you'd never talked to anybody when you were in New Orleans or like the first year that you were in London?
No, never. I'd thought about it though. Like in 2015 when I was like super, super low, I had like Googled like therapists and stuff in my local area, and I actually like bookmarked one of them and put it in like my bookmark tab so that if I needed to, like I could click there and like I could get help.
Emergency bookmark.
Yeah. But I never did, so.
Yeah, a couple words that I hear, and I hear this a lot with a lot of people who struggle with anxiety or people who just seem very confident in general are the two words, "it's fine," where mostly it's never fine when you hear the words "it's fine."
Very true.
Like, I feel like those can be like two of the most problematic words that you can use, because the more you say it, the more you start to believe it, even though it's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Because that saying "it's fine" is kind of a coping mechanism for things not being fine.
Yeah.
And so like it just makes everything worse, it feels.
Well,
but
and I found in my personal history, when I'm saying like, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine, I'm also realizing it's not fine, it's not fine, it's not fine. And then I'm getting frustrated at myself that it's not fine. And I'm like, why can't it just be fine? You said it was. Why isn't it? So
yeah, I don't think I've ever been one to like I don't think I've ever been one to have that train of thought of just like repeatedly "it's fine." I feel like I kind of trend towards the way of like, no, things are not gonna get better. just deal with it. And that's gonna be fine. That everything sucks and nothing matters. But that is also unhealthy in just a different way.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely get carried into the. I think that I think that we're socialized, to present ourselves as being okay, even when things are like breaking apart and burning inside.
yes.
Because
especially around new people.
Totally, especially around new people, especially in a new culture, especially in a new environment like college where you don't know, if people are safe. And honestly, I feel that pressure tremendously around people that I'm close to in my family sometimes, because especially with like parents, because it'll break your family's heart to hear that their daughter that they love so much and have invested so much in is really struggling. And so I think that sometimes just admitting that something's wrong, even if you don't know what it is, or that you're experiencing anxiety and that you have to learn to work with it, that's a huge admittance, and it can also be really isolating to even just say it out loud to people. I know people, fortunately, like my parents have been pretty accepting of everything that I've gone through, but I have quite a few friends who continue to get, sort of, I don't want to say, I guess, frustrated by their interactions with their parents because they feel like they're not quite being listened to, and that's sort of a battle to choose. And so you can get really caught in that balance of like, nope, everything's fine. I just don't even want to deal with the possible social repercussions of talking to people about this.
Yeah, that's definitely what I feel, especially because like my family is in America and my husband's family is here, and our families are very different in their essentially like structure and morals, I guess. But I just feel really like I just can't really talk to them about like mental health because I don't want my family to worry about me. And I'm also like, will they really understand? And like, is it that worth like worrying them about? But I found that recently when I was going through a really, really, really bad bout of depression, I was FaceTiming my mom and I was just like, I'm at my lowest and this is why, and I just need you to like listen to me and I miss you and blah blah blah. And it was really interesting having her reaction because I think she's as far as I know, she's never had any mental illness, and she's a very upbeat, happy woman. So when I come at her and I'm like, I'm depressed and I'm anxious and I'm back on my meds, she's like, when were you on meds? What? Like, she doesn't even like remember like 2009 what I was like. So yeah, but she's very accepting, and I think it's also like a learning thing for her to like learn how to be around someone who has anxiety or depression. And there have been times when she's said the wrong thing and just been kind of insensitive, but she doesn't know that, like, that hurts my feelings. So I've just had to be like, Mom, I'm just telling you this because I love you, but you probably shouldn't say that, especially when I am feeling this low, because it sucks. And she's like, oh, okay, thanks for telling me. So it's not always bad to tell your parents you're feeling depressed.
Yeah. Oh, I fully advocate for it, but it can be, you have to be so patient, you know, on both ends. Yeah. It takes a lot of patience on both ends.
Especially when you have, you not just with parents, but like family that like you think that like you're supposed to be close with. And so everybody thinks that you're close with. So like you kind of act like you're close with everybody, even though like you all know that you're not. So like you just put on kind of this facade of just like everything being okay and just like getting all the updates and just that. I feel like, I don't know, there should be like a term about that. Just like, I don't know, like Thanksgiving dinner living type of thing. Of just like coming together and all like meeting and kind of just I don't know, it's just, it creates an interesting dynamic when you're surrounded by people that you don't know too well, even in your own family. And like, how do you communicate something with that's very personal to you with somebody that's not close to you, but then they feel like they should know everything because like their family. It's just a very interesting dynamic. And along with family, and I'm sure with friends. So I kind of want to hear kind of your thoughts on getting dropped into New Orleans and then getting dropped into England. You kind of just basically said that you were in New Orleans and it was really bad for like a year, as far as just like having a mixture of jobs and not really knowing anybody there. A lot of times, I know I kind of use the same phrasing like in my journey of just like, and it was really bad for those few months or so, but like people don't understand that it is like a daily, almost like agony type of thing. So I was just kind of wondering how your day-to-day was in New Orleans and how that was kind of different from your day-to-day in England, and if you had pretty much the same difficulties, just more so in England, or if you had varying different types of things happening.
Yeah, so in New Orleans, obviously, like, I had my dad there and his girlfriend, and then I also had a job. So I had people counting on me, right? And I had, like, certain commitments I had to fulfill. I also had a roommate, but it's not like I was close with them. So I was living essentially on my own, and I had to, like, get groceries and stuff. And oftentimes I would just... I'd either be like really looking forward to getting groceries and like I can't wait to just like go outside and like get some fresh air, or just like I can't be bothered. I am just going to stay in my room. I can't go outside. I don't want to run into my roommate or run into like someone I know from work at the store. And that happens, I think, still in England, but it's like a little different now because like I have more stake here than I ever did in New Orleans while I was there after university. Okay. Like I've got 2 cats, I'm married, and I know my way around, and it's fine. It really is this time though. Like it's okay.
But about how long? But about how long did it take to like get to that level?
Oh, it took so like the whole of 2015. And then maybe like, I want to say a third of 2016 before I was like really feeling more confident in myself to like go outside and get stuff done that I wanted to get done. And that's just like, it's so hard for me to find reasons to go outside unless I have something planned. So like today, I didn't go outside, for instance. I had stuff planned at home. Like I didn't have to go get groceries or go.
This is your social interaction for the day.
Yeah.
And you're done. Check it off the list.
Honestly, it's so true. And I feel like those days where I don't have anything planned are the toughest. And I did this in New Orleans too. Like I would just like sit at home and watch videos, go on Netflix, just watch like TBS like constantly on the TV, and And here it's pretty much the same, but I usually like, I'll listen to podcasts, maybe I'll read a book. That's a new thing though, reading for me.
Nice.
I didn't read as much back in the day, but now I'm like, yes, give me a chance to unplug from the internet, please. But yeah, it's like I don't want to like put the blame on myself, but I also want to acknowledge the fact that I do create these instances for me to like isolate myself.
Oh yeah,
and
for sure.
It's really tough
No.
to.
I'm agreeing with the idea that we should take blame for part of our
right,
and not just put all the blame on like anxiety or depression.
Let's say
Because
accountability rather than blame, because blame carries a lot.
Yeah, there's Laura. There's Laura coming in with the just like smacking that out of there and like just reassuring, hey, use this. That's a lot better.
Accountability.
Yeah, thanks, Laura.
That's a much more empowering
You're keeping
word to
me
use.
accountable.
Yeah. But basically, I mean, I think yes, accountability is a great word to use here because I have to hold myself accountable, and so it's really easy for me to just like waste away a day in bed, like just sleep I slept for like 15 hours recently. I was partly sick, but it was mostly like, these dreams are interesting. Let's keep it rolling. And I do that a lot, but I have to like be aware of like how that makes me feel too, because spending a day in bed is not always great for your mental health. You're sitting inside, you're not talking to anyone, not getting any fresh air, blah blah blah, all the typical stuff. And I just like pick at myself, and it's just the negative narrative all the time about like stupid things from years ago, or the fact that I am sitting in bed and sleeping for so long, or countless other things, and it just gets really annoying after a while. So I've been trying to get better about like planning things into my weekly routine, at least like like once a week I go to a ballet class, and that tests my anxiety a lot because I'm in this new situation. I haven't done ballet since I was like 8 years old, and I'm not very good at it. It's really hard, and like it's so scary for me to go every week, but coming away from it, I feel better because I have like replaced those bad feelings with positive ones, and I feel like I can do this, and I'm getting better each time I go. So yeah,
it's testing yourself instead of giving up before you even try.
Right.
And I feel like we have a lot of similarities in that, especially because I feel like my biggest struggle is the same of just like staying in bed, whether that's just like being in bed like an hour extra or just like laying in bed later at night, not getting anything done, and just like going through all of the things that like you're anxious about in the future. I've started being less anxious about like all of the things that like have happened before, and kind of refocusing and knowing that like none of that is able to change. So there's no point in thinking, why do I do that? So I've been able to like kind of overcome that for the most part, but now it's like just trying to fight against this is coming up soon. What do I do in this situation? And I'm finding out more and more that like everything is coming back to like the fear of rejection and like why I don't do all of these things and why I stay in my bed in the first place is because I don't want to like go out there and get rejected by people and such. And like it's just not a good place to be in. But we have to, like you said, make like plans for ourselves to be able to like have excuses and reasons to get out of bed earlier than we want to, even sometimes. But like you so you freelance, right?
No, not anymore. I
Not anymore.
just
Okay.
like have decided I don't want to work, and I know that's coming from a very privileged place, but I'm also doing it because I need to like work on me at the moment. So yeah, I'm just an artist, I guess. I write,
Artiste.
I paint, I do ballet, whatever. That's what I do.
Yeah, one thing that I found helpful, especially when like I wasn't even like doing anything consistently like I am now in that kind of realm, was just like having a plan to go out at least like every other day to like a coffee shop, because like I need, even though I don't think I do, I need some type of social interaction, even though I'm highly introverted.
Yeah.
Like you need that kind of thing to keep you like, I don't know, energized, because everybody is fed a little bit by, so like we're social beings, like
Right.
that's natural.
Well,
So
oh,
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I also think that especially if you're experiencing social anxiety, the best, you know, it feels terrifying and counterintuitive, but I think the best way to combat that is to have small doses of social interaction every day, you know, that aren't threatening. Like, your biggest enemy is your own negative narrative, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and if you stay inside, because I've experienced depression too, and fortunately at my lowest points, I had an older sister who would physically drag me out of my room and be like, no, you're not doing this today, you're going outside, and we would take a walk, you know. And so like getting yourself out of that negative cyclical thinking where you're just like berating yourself and keeping yourself isolated can be the most significant thing. Even if you're outside for 5 minutes and you just look around and you're like, oh, there's a child that exists that's not me, that's right there, you know, or like a flower, whatever it is that you notice that's outside of the thoughts that keep you reinforcing everything that's wrong about yourself. You know, that can be really a big step at a time when you really need it. I feel like just learning to create structure for yourself, or like one little task a day, is really helpful.
I totally agree. And I think that's why my photo journal helped me so much in 2016. Because like I said,
talk about that more. That sounds
I wanna
super
hear about that too.
interesting.
Yeah, it was such a great project. Like, I did one photo journal post a day for a year, and it essentially just pushed me out the door. Like, I got sick of photographing stuff in my flat. Like, I had to go outside. I wanted to see the leaves change. I wanted to see the snow when it snowed, because I'm a southern girl, you know, we don't get much snow in Florida. But it was just so great because I felt like I had a reason to go outside that was you know, a really good one. You know, taking photos is really fun. And some days it wasn't super fun because I just didn't want to do it, but I did it anyway. And I think, if anything, that's taught me a lot. Like, I can persevere and I can push myself into these like situations I don't feel comfortable in, and I can come away with something really cool, or I've learned something from it. And I mean, like, it's tough talking about like my photo journal from last year, because I'm like, well, what have I done this year, you know? But I'm trying to do more things. Like, reading has been a great way for me to get outside, because I'll go to the bookstore and look at the books, maybe buy a new one, and then go to a coffee shop and maybe read it. And that's been really helpful. Not so great on my bank account, though, you know, buying books and coffee. And then in November, I do NaNoWriMo. So I'm really looking forward to it, because that gives me the chance to grab my laptop and go write in a cafe. And I don't care if other people are around me, because I'm like focused on the story, you know, just typing it out. So yeah.
What is that in November? What is that event?
Oh, it's National Novel Writing Month.
Oh, so right. So you're going to write a novel in the month?
Yeah. So I've done it the last 2 years. And both of my novels have been like spooky themed, because it's coming off of like October, Halloween. Yeah. This year, I don't know what I'm going to write about. We'll have to see. But yeah, it's just a great opportunity to be like introverted in like in a social setting, I guess.
Absolutely.
No one judges you if you're like typing on a laptop at a cafe. They're like, oh, they're busy. They're doing something. So
yeah, I think that goes really well with what Laura was saying about just like doing things in small dosages and just like increasing the dosage of social interaction and pushing your levels of like what you can handle even more than you think you can handle at some points, and just like going out there more and more, so that when you're put into situations where you're not in control, you can better handle those situations.
Yes, so true.
Because you're gonna be in situations that are large dosages that you're gonna be tempted to freak out and have a panic attack. And so like you gotta sometimes you just don't have an easy escape route, so you can't just like give up.
Yeah.
That's not a good solution.
Another thing I've taken up in an effort to like get me out and meeting new people is Dungeons and Dragons.
Dude.
Yes. So I feel like a total nerd, but it's really fun, cool. And I'm really into like creating characters and stories and stuff. So it's right up my street. But the first, I think, like meeting we had with like me, my husband, his friend, and then like 4 strangers that I've never met. We went and we were at this pub that's like right down the street from us. And I went in and I was feeling a little nervous. And like we're creating our characters and you're supposed to be like rolling the dice. And I like misunderstood the instructions and messed up. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing. I have to go. This is terrible. Like they hate you. You're ruining the game. You're the only girl here. This whole thing. But then I was just like, okay, take a deep breath. Just like think for a second. Like, are they really judging you? Probably not. Did you really mess up? Like, exactly. No. Are you the only new person here? No, there's 3 other new people too. And it's fine. And so I sat through it and I'm really glad I did because I created an awesome character. Nice. And like I came away feeling much better for having like just pushed through that like potential panic attack because it was really intense. And sometimes it's hard to like see the light at the end of the tunnel and just like push forward for that. But I'm really glad that I was able to just like pull myself out of that as well as I did.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I actually have a very similar experience of just like playing D&D for the first time a few months ago. And just like there was a group and I was only there for like a limited like I wouldn't be there consistently, but they're like, you can just roll in. I'm like, no, that's okay. I'll just watch. I'm like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah. And then like later on, like they asked again, I was just like, I don't know the rules. And they're like, well, just play anyway. And so like, I'm in the game now and I'm freaking out. And like, I've never played and like, I don't know any of these things. So I'm just like having a little, panic episode in my mind, and then like just seeing how much everybody else is enjoying it and like nobody's looking to you and like being like, oh, this person sucks, this person's doing it wrong, and like everybody's like focusing typically on themselves and that, and just like trying to have a fun, enjoyable time, which is what it's about. So just a lot less thinking inward and more thinking outward is kind of the best course of action in my experience. But yeah, the photo journal thing that you do was super cool. I think you should do that some more so I can check it out this time.
I would really like to. I think I actually tried to start it back up again from the advice of my therapist. She really wanted me to, get something going. And I had really missed it. So I tried doing it again, but I was at a weird point and it just felt wrong to like, launch back into this thing and like have to write about like my day or whatever. And just knowing that like I'm depressed and I'm anxious and I don't want to read this back. So I don't want to like share it with other people, So I think I'm going to wait a bit. I'll wait for the right moment and then I'll make my comeback.
Okay. Yeah.
I have a question for you. Do you think that you would ever be comfortable sharing some of those truths when you're in it? Like, here's a photo of a flower. Today is a hard day, but this is beautiful.
Ooh.
Like
That's what I want. Dude, be on our blog. Start writing for us.
I mean, like the thing about
it's vulnerable, but
exactly. And with the photo journal, it was really therapeutic for me. And I did have those really bad days where like I wasn't in it to win it. I didn't want to be there, or I was feeling really anxious and like I, flaked out on something that I was supposed to go to. And I basically like talked through it. And because I was sharing it with like the internet, essentially, I didn't realize until like after it was over, but like my mother-in-law and my sisters-in-law and my aunt who lives in California and her daughter, like, they were all reading it and they felt way closer to me. And like, because obviously they got to take a peek inside my head for like a day or two, you know? And it like meant so much to me that I could like share a very intimate part of myself with people I don't really feel close to. But coming away from that, it also builds up so much expectation on myself to always be comfortable sharing a vulnerable moment or having something to share at all, you know, and wanting to like please my family as well. So that's kind of tough too. But I do love the aspect of like opening up to people. And I think especially these days, like, you know, Instagram and whatever else, people share like the best parts of their lives. And since I'm like across the world from my family, it's hard to not just want to share the highlights with them because, you know, like we mentioned before, like your family cares about you and you don't want them to worry. And so it's tough to just be like your raw, true self sometimes. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm a photographer as well. And I've been trying to post very frequently because I just have a backlog of stuff that I've just never shared with anybody. And like, I don't want to write all these things all the time and like people doing stupid bios of like having something meaningful every time. So like recently I've just started a project of just like doing 1-word captions. I'm just like, here's my friend who looks like just really calm right now. So I just put tranquility, done. Here's somebody who's like hugging her dad and like they're just having a good moment. Like that's just love in a photo. And so just like posting a bunch of pictures and like not worrying about it, because like I think what you described is essentially the struggle for any creative is just like, what are people gonna think about it? What are like people who I don't know are going to think about it? What are the people that I'm close to? What are my family going to think about it? And then I've done this for a while and I think that went pretty well. How can I even match the expectations that like I set for myself? So a way that I've just combated that is by doing stupid little Instagram posts and not really caring that much. Like having that type of consistency is also pushing me to take more photos and be more creative, and that is pushing me to like go out and enjoy outside more and have more social interactions. Right. So yesterday there was this girl who looked very approachable, and I was just sitting in a cafe, a coffee shop, and I was working on a bunch of work that I needed to get done, and so I wasn't even like in a setting where I could where I felt comfortable like going out. But like I've started to just like compliment people whenever I think of a compliment, because that's never a bad thing to do. Like nobody's ever like pissed off that you complimented them for the most part. Like why do we not tell people the things that we like about them? So I try every time if there's an opportunity to like tell people that. And she was like some rad like punk rock looking woman with like purple hair, and so like I had my earbuds in and I just like she looked at me and I just like acted like I was pulling on my hair and then just like did the okay hand symbol, being like nice hair, but then she's like looking behind her and thinking it's like me, and then she starts walking over to me. I'm like, oh no, what do I do? I was trying to give a compliment, and then I take out my earbuds and we have a little interaction, and then like she introduced herself, and I think that I forgot to even say my name, and then she walked away. But then I'm like, you know what? Like I can do this. I can have more social interaction and not like be caught off guard. And so I'm just like, I always have my camera on me, and like whenever I see something that like that looks really rad, I'd love to take that person's portrait, especially at this really nice coffee shop that has some sweet little lights in the background to give a good bokeh effect. So like I asked her for a portrait, and then she was just like excited and so down. And so just like having like that positive interaction coupled with a story and a photo to go along with that story, like it's an all-around good experience just because I push myself. So yeah, push yourself. Yeah, but I just kind of want to talk more about just like relationships and kind of Sienna, what you've had to deal with more with like your relationships and how that relates to like your mental health. I know that you talked about like having to like move and then like in turn like losing a friend and having to be on the opposite side of a relationship where somebody saw that like they didn't want to be in the friendship anymore, and that somebody wasn't you, which really sucks. And I've been there, and I feel like I've had similar experiences. So I kind of want to hear your thoughts more on that.
Yeah. So basically, in terms of like the broken friendship, that happened in like actually it was like the week before my birthday in 2014. Yes, it was. And basically what happened is like the week before I had gone back to Florida to visit some friends and also like take care of some like little errand things because I used to live in Orlando. And while I was there, it was really weird because I had been away from my friends for about like 9 months. And so, you go back, you're so excited. It's going to be like the best weekend ever. And it just doesn't live up to your expectations. And it was actually like really, really devastating because like I realized that I wasn't really a part of the friend group anymore. And it wasn't going how I wanted. And some stuff happened that was annoying. But overall, I was like, okay, it's fine. When I got back to New Orleans, like about a week later, I realized that one of my friends wasn't on Facebook anymore. And so I was like, oh my God, that's so weird. Let me text them. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like, did you delete your Facebook? And they responded and they were like, no, I blocked you. And I was like, what?
My insides are turning for you.
And basically they didn't want to be my friend anymore, and I immediately switched into, oh my God, like this can't be real. I've got to do something to fix this. Like this is my fault. And I like immediately apologized because I didn't know anything was wrong, but like clearly I've done something to hurt them. And it got like really nasty really quick, and basically
nasty as in like you on yourself or between the two of you?
Well, them to me, like they just didn't want anything to do with me, and they wouldn't even like really explain like why. And so I didn't really get the closure I needed, and it was very clear they didn't want to be my friend. So I went into a very, very deep depression very quickly, and just like I went through like all of the stages of grief. Like I was so sad, and like then I was like bartering and like, oh, just I'll do this if we'll just be friends. And it was terrible. It was really like pathetic too. But eventually I like kind of got into a better space where I wasn't feeling like so depressed about it. But it just has affected me from then till now, like 3 years later. And it's really changed a lot of the ways that I approach friendship and like how I am as a friend. And it's made me so much more like guarded and really scared to open up to new people, and scared that I'm going to do something wrong. And that obviously doesn't help with like the fact that I have anxiety and to have that plus like a really traumatic experience where apparently I did something wrong to the point where this friend that I had had since like 9th grade didn't want to be my friend anymore. So if I do anything wrong, then any friend can just drop me like that. And it's
been there.
Yeah, and it's so messed up because like obviously if anybody like is listening to this and you're like, that's not true, like not every friend is the friend that essentially broke up with you. It's like, I know that, but also my body's response is like, no, you can't get close to people because if you get too close, then they can break your heart. And it's really sad.
It's like you got a Smeagol and you got a Gollum inside of you.
So since obviously moving to England, like being uprooted and just having like no friends really, and also feeling super guarded and like I felt like I couldn't be a good friend because I had clearly done something. So that must mean that I'm a bad friend. And why would anyone want to be friends with me? And I went through this time where like any new potential friend I met, I just felt like there's no way they're going to want to be my friend. You know, like this person who broke up with me, they didn't want to be my friend. So this new person, they're going to find something that I've done and they're gonna use that as like the nail in the coffin. So why even try? So
Did you so you said that you did CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, which we didn't expand earlier. When you did that work, was that after this event happened? Like, have you worked with your therapist at all to undo that? Because I hear so much self-blaming and shaming and just like guilt. And honestly, I doubt it had much to do with you. Like that person's decision probably influenced 15% by your actual actions, you know?
Yeah.
And I would love to hear like if you've had any opportunity to work through it or if you could work through it, just because, you know, that's not fair to you to do that to yourself.
Right? And I think that's, so in terms of CBT, my therapist and I did talk a lot about like that event and just like making friends in general. And it has been really helpful to kind of like step outside of the situation because for so long, like I want to say for like 2.5 years, I've been blaming myself so much. Even when I feel like, okay, you know, I've gotten past it and like, you know, they didn't want to be my friend, fine. But like, you know, it still cuts really deep. And it felt like this person who I was so close with, they saw like something in me that's evil. So they must have like this knowledge that I don't have. And even if like, I know that's silly, I still am like, but.
Well, it's just giving up your power.
Yeah.
You know,
and it sucks. And so I feel like there's still so much to work through with that. But I do think like every time I have like a positive interaction with a friend or an acquaintance or whatever, like going to ballet class or D&D, I feel like I'm slowly like chipping away at the giant rock of this grudge. So, and I hold grudges so easily. So it's like, but this is the one that has totally like, I want to say if you were looking at like the timeline of like how my life should go, I feel like it derailed me like as a person. And it sucks. It sucks. And I hate it. But, you know, ultimately, the more that I've like researched stuff about friendship for Make New Friends, the more I feel like kind of just able to cope with it better and just rationalize the way that I was feeling at the time and the way that I feel now. And also look at it with a bit more perspective than I had before, because obviously, like, I was caught so off guard. I had no idea what was happening. And, like, it hurt so much and for so long that I feel like it's just kind of, like, blackened a part of my friendship heart. You know what I'm saying? So it's been really tough to work through. But, you know, knowledge is power. So I'm doing what I can.
Yeah, what have you found any like positives through that situation that have kind of like been silver linings that have changed your frame of thinking other than just like self blame?
Yeah, so that friendship wasn't the healthiest, and I think that's the main thing that I took away from that was a positive, and it just gave me the ability to look at our dynamic when we were friends and see like, okay, are you sure that you would still want to be friends with them? And I found out, like, after a while, I'm talking like maybe a year, that like, no, I don't want to be friends with someone that can so easily drop a friend, or who can be manipulative as well. Not that they, okay, so like they weren't like manipulating me, what I feel like is intentionally, but they were just kind of rude when it wasn't funny. And they also liked to take me down a peg, and that was kind of our friendship humor, you know, like we'd have these like inside jokes where we'd be making fun of one another, but after a point it just gets hurtful. And I think realizing that after the fact made me realize the type of people I want to be surrounded by, and it's not people who are gonna like talk about me behind my back or make fun of me if I do something wrong. So
yeah. Absolutely.
I ask because I've had like your experience is totally different. You have a lot of different variables, just like everybody's experiences are different, but I feel like I've had a somewhat similar situation of just like having like a friend drop you out of nowhere and having to cope with that. It's similar to like you finding out about it. I remember just not hearing from that person for a while, not getting responses to messages. So I'm like, wow, I think this person is hurting a lot. What can I do to like help that person? Writing a little letter to give them, just being like, there's not many people like this around me, but just to give you some encouragement, you are someone that feels like home. And just going through like a 3-page little letter of just trying to encourage them. And then I don't even know if they ever read it, but the reason they weren't talking to me is because they didn't feel comfortable around me for some reason that I still don't know why. But like I feel like the silver lining to that is just like sometimes we're not supposed to know why. Like we have to deal with not having closure in a lot of situations, and not only that is a good learning experience, but also just like knowing if one person that you felt incredibly close to can just drop you at what seems like like a moment, then why can't all of your other friends do the same? And why wouldn't anybody that you ever meet in the future not do the same thing also? So why even try? So like I went through all of those emotions and like pretty much gotten over them, but like I'm sure just like you, they come up every now and then again. Just thinking that like, because I was on that side of a interaction, I am able to now a lot better empathize and see that side when that happens to other people, and how to better reach out to other people when I start to see those same things kind of happen, because that's just something I was totally oblivious to for the most part, of just like, hey, that's a bummer that like you don't have that going on for you anymore. But like when you see people who are obviously maybe not like they're, because nobody it seems are lacking in friends, because we always see people as having more friends than we do. But you can tell if you look close enough that there's people who are longing to have more interaction, or people who are putting themselves in positions where they're not getting the interaction that they should. And so seeing that and knowing what I've been through and how that experience made me want to more isolate myself and kind of give up, like getting over my feelings by helping push other people. And like, it's just like a positive reinforcement to them just as much as it's a positive reinforcement back to me. So it's just kind of like a positive cycle of giving. I'm so thankful for that experience, because like I went through a lot of different, I don't know. I think you said that you lost a lot of other friends, or they just kind of dissipated kind of along with that. I had that as well with a few others around the same time. And so just kind of dealing with all of that at once, like all of those feelings and emotions, kind of having to like think there are reasons for these things happening. And am I going to give up and let that conquer me? Or am I going to try to help other people with the experience that I've been given? And so that's just kind of a thing that and of course, like, I don't do it all the time. Like, I don't want to make myself sound like a good person. Like, like, we're all just trying. And like Laura said, like, that person, it probably had hardly anything to do with you. Just like the friends that are no longer really friends with me. It's just something that they were feeling rather than probably something that I did, even though that was probably a part of it. A little bit.
I think relationships have value, and I also think that some relationships expire and they should be allowed to expire. You know, I think that's true of romantic relationships as well as non-romantic ones. Like, and I think that we often place so much importance on holding on to things. You know, like, look at the average American closet. It's hard for us to get rid of our physical stuff, and it's hard for us to allow our, you know, non-physical things to be let go when they need to be let go. And so I just think that, I don't know, I think that there were probably some lessons in, it sounds like for you, like it's been both a source of more anxiety and a source of growth, you know, and I just love focusing on like the points of growth through the pain. And like Tyler, I love your suggestion of experiences like that helping you gain more empathy for other people, because whether you choose to act on it or not, when you're talking to strangers, empathy is a very wonderful tool to have. And yeah,
I think it's the most valuable characteristic, and so definitely something good. We haven't even touched on, just to cut myself off, your relationship with your husband now. How has that kind of flowed into all of these things?
Yeah, so it's been good, like so good. He's my best friend, and like I think also part of the reason why I was able to understand that friendship I had wasn't the best is because I have this friendship that is so good and is definitely like we're equals and we give and we take and we support each other. So I have this like really healthy relationship in my life to, I guess, compare to other things. And seeing that has been so good because like I think for a while, like the people I was surrounding myself with just, they weren't really caring for me in the same way that I was caring for them. And now that I have someone who is like mirroring my I don't know, mirroring what I'm doing in the relationship, it's like a light has been turned on and I'm like, oh my gosh, have I been living in the dark this whole time? Like, it's crazy because it's night and day for sure. And I feel very like protected, and I feel very fortunate and very grateful to have a partner that is so supportive of me as a person and my mental health. He always puts that first and foremost. And even though he doesn't deal with like mental illness, he's very sympathetic, and I think he gets where I'm coming from, and that's so great. And I feel very lucky to have a partner that just like is able to say okay when I say like I'm having a panic attack, and they aren't like, what do you mean, like that's not real, or like, oh, just pull yourself up, we're going, you know. It's a special thing to have someone that is asking, how can I help, rather than like, that's not real, you know. It's just so good. And he's just the greatest. I don't know.
Oh, shout out to Pathy.
Yeah.
So one thing that we like to end our podcast with is just asking, what are the best thing that you've experienced with having a mental illness and your struggles with mental health, and what is kind of the worst thing that you've had to deal with? So I like to start out with the worst, of course, because that's me. So what would you say is the worst thing that you've kind of had to go through and deal with?
I would say probably the worst thing is the isolation, because it's just it sucks and it feels like you're completely alone and like you're the only person that's ever felt this way.
Yeah.
And your brain is sometimes telling you that too, that like if you tell someone, they're not going to understand and you're going to feel even worse. So just sit and fester. So that's my least favorite part, especially when I'm already feeling low and then I get lower. But I think the best part about having anxiety and depression is that it's made me understand others a little bit better and just kind of take things with a grain of salt. And I just don't think that people who are completely like healthy in their mental health, they sometimes don't pause for like those little moments and just think like what's going on in this person's life that would potentially cause this situation to happen. And I just like that aspect because it gives you a little more insight into what people are going through. And it's a useful tool as well to just kind of get perspective.
For sure. And that's one thing that like, it's not even just like the empathy. It's just like, it's kind of fun and like really healthy and good to just be thinking of others in a way of like you're trying to think about their thought processes. And so like you ask them about it and that just generates a completely different type of conversation than you would normally have if you didn't have like an experience or a bad experience with your mental health. And so like I always appreciate those conversations. So conversations like these are kind of just like my favorite. So great to have you on the podcast. Thank you again for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
If anybody is interested in a nice little, it's what, like 30 to 40 minutes around each episode?
Yeah, sometimes we even go up to an hour, so getting crazy.
Oh, yeah, don't listen to those ones. Sienna is on a podcast with my other friend, Mary Aikman, called Make New Friends podcast, and it is wonderful and joyful, and I will link it in the description in the show notes. And so I encourage you to go check that out. We're also on Patreon, repping with 2 patrons right now. Thank you, Kyle and Jen. You guys are the best. So if you want to help us out and get some little bonus episodes, I put up a couple already on our Patreon, and just have little fun things here and there and join our little community over there. We'd greatly appreciate that.
And you can find that at patreon.com/Mr. Feels Podcast.
Mr. Feels.
Just Mr. Feels.
I got that. Yeah. Patreon.com/Mr. Feels. Our Twitter is patreon.com/Mr. Feels Podcast. Our branding is inconsistent. I'm sorry, but I feel like Mr. Feels. When you can get Mr. Feels, you go Mr. Feels. But when you can't, go Mr. Feels Podcast. That's my thinking. I'm a bad
Twitter.
marketer.
Our Twitter is just
101,
at Mr. Feels Podcast, not patreon.com/Mr. Feels Podcast.
Yeah,
that'd be a long Twitter
think
handle.
We get enough characters for that.
Yeah.
All right, we should probably end it and let the wonderful Driftless Pony Club music take it out. Bye, guys.